Hello everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and this is an interesting locals, isn't it? It's our kitchen table. This is my roommate and I playing Subterror Guru versus Thunder Dragon Pure. We're just rolling dice right now. We couldn't make it out to locals this weekend because I have the LSAT on Saturday. Wish me luck in the comments section below, and I promise to represent you for free when you're put in Konami jail for activating Cowboy in time. We're going first, and that's pretty important. We lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance, and this is really how you want every single game of Guru to go. Usually Pot of Extravagance doesn't do a whole lot but get the ash out of your opponent's hand, but on the rare occasion that you do actually get to resolve its effect, it can be game-winning. Off the top we find a couple of really powerful cards, one of which is the Hidden City. Now, we do have a terraforming in hand already, but it's always important to tilt your opponent whenever possible. So let's go ahead and play around Droll, I suppose, by activating Hidden City. Our opponent's going to read it real quick. This is a card with about 4 effects. People forget a lot of Hidden City's extraneous effects, and it leads to really preventable losses a lot of the time. Not only does it search a Subterror monster on activation, it also can flip a Subterror monster that is set face up, and it can negate an attack from your opponent. Usually people forget about that third one. We're going to set a copy of Guru and then use its effect. We already have a Fiendus in hand, searched off of the activation of City, which means we're going to be able to go ahead and get a copy of Final Battle. Our opponent's hand is not particularly good. It's got Shifter plus Solar, which, you know, is broken. But it's not particularly broken when we're allowed time to set up. You can see we've set 3 cards here. Now Solar doesn't look particularly good, and ooh, Necro Valley. We've drawn our set rotation target, which is incredibly powerful in this matchup. You can see he's just shaking his head real quick. Obviously our faces are out of the frame, but I can assure you his blood vessels were bursting. He's going to lead with a copy of Shifter. I have no response. That is a little bit problematic for us because it means that all cards sent to the graveyard are banished instead, and we can't activate the effect of Fiendus, but I'm not too beat up about it. Now, while Batteryman Solar might be a particularly good normal summon in a vacuum versus 3-set, it's probably not. It's hard to formulate plays around back row until you draw DENKO SEKKA. I always seem to run into this when I'm playing Guru. Okay, well, this locks our back row. I'm a little beat up, and that represents my expression every time I have to face down the DENKO Daddy. Our opponent's going to think for a second and then go to battle phase. I know what this means. It means that they've got a copy of Matrix in hand. They'll go ahead and attack our copy of Guru, which has 100 more defense than DENKO has attack. I'm just putting it in the graveyard, knowing what's coming next. As they go to Matrix, I remind them, it's 1 per turn. Unfortunately for us, this means they have activated the effect of a Thunder card in hand and could conceivably go into a copy of Colossus, though likely that'd kind of lose them the game. We're going to go ahead and activate Terraforming. Our opponent elects to keep our back row locked, but unfortunately we have the out. They're going to check the text on DENKO. We're going to get a copy of Hidden City. We'll activate that Hidden City and find ourselves a copy of Archer. This is where Subterror shines. On turns 3 and 4, as long as it can out the problematic monsters your opponent controls, and it usually has access to do so via Guru's Book of Moon effect, we should be in the clear. We're going to go ahead and fetch an Archer, like I stated earlier. Afterwards, we're going to normal summon a copy of Guru. That Guru can flip this copy of DENKO SEKKA face down. Then, of course, that Guru's flip up off of Hidden City can add a card from our deck to our hand. The advantage generation of this deck is almost unparalleled. Our opponent doesn't have a response, so afterwards we'll activate Hidden City, targeting our set card, flip it up, and resolve the effect of Guru. We can get almost anything here. We have a Fiendus in hand already, so we'll go ahead and snag another one since we already have a final battle set. We'll go to battle phase. Our opponent will reveal their otherwise particularly bricky hand and concede. For Game 2, our opponent's going first. They're going to lead with a copy of Allure of Darkness. This is always a bit of a high roll from the Thunder Dragon player. Provided what they banish, it could be very bad for us. They're going to banish a copy of Thunder Dragon Dark. This permits them to add any Thunder Dragon card from their deck to their hand. Let's see what they select. Usually you want to start your turn by activating the effect of Thunder Dragon Roar banished off of something like an Allure of Darkness, but Dark is a pretty good substitute. Our opponent has decided to fetch a copy of Thunder Dragon Roar. I'm a little confused. Dragon Roar's hand effect isn't particularly good, and my opponent probably shouldn't be aiming to resolve that over the course of the turn. I pass priority back to them, and they reveal a second Allure of Darkness. Always seems to happen. They're so excited they forget to draw. Okay, it's still just Pot of Greed with upside. They'll go ahead and banish this copy of Dragon Roar and then activate the effect of Dragon Roar. This is a little funky. Usually what you want to get off of Dragon Roar is Dragon Dark, but they've already activated the effect this turn. You can't really go into Dragon Hawk because, of course, you want to activate the Hawk hand effect, so they elect to go into a copy of Dragon Matrix. This at the very least will float when it inevitably goes to the graveyard. Afterwards, they're going to activate a couple of effects, the first of which is Thunder Dragon, and the second of which is going to be Thunder Dragon as well. Thunder Dragon, of course, can add itself to the hand in multiples of 2. Routinely, you'd see people do this back when Thunder Dragon was used primarily for FTK strategies as a way to beat the inherent minuses of things like Dark World Dealings, which were at the time very playable in Royal Magical Library strategies and the like. Now, of course, Thunder Dragon can be used to activate the hand effect of Thunder Dragon to fuel the grave. It's a little more reminiscent of how it was used in, like, Goat format occasionally. After he adds the Thunder Dragon to the hand, he will reveal another power player. It's a copy of Monster Reborn. This is a little screwy, but it does get 2 monsters onto his side of the field. Now, my opponent is playing around evenly matched, he revealed to me after this game, refusing to commit to a board of multiple copies of Colossus in case he has to play subsequent turns without the additional ones. He's going to use the effect of Matrix to get another Matrix to his hand after he's link summoned a Summer Summoner. And whichever Konami intern named this card, please send me their contact information so I can give them a firm slap in the face. Next, he's going to activate Instant Fusion. This is going to bring a Kanemari attack to his side of the field. A Kanemari attack is a very interesting inclusion in these builds. It's usually used as link fodder for some Summer Summoner, but of course because it's a Fusion Thunder monster that's summonable off of Instant Fusion, it's also able to be banished alongside a monster in your hand to go into Thunder Dragon Titan. My opponent's just deciding real quickly if that's in fact what he wants to commit to. After all, this loses a little harder to evenly matched than I think he would have liked. For those of you counting at home, this actually does it in terms of Nibiru summons. After mulling it over for just a little bit of time, he's going to say, yeah, let's go ahead and commit to the play and banish this copy of Kanemari Attack, alongside, I believe, a copy of Matrix from the hand, in order to fusion summon a copy of Thunder Dragon Titan. Thunder Dragon Titan is interesting here. I think my opponent really wants to do something like destroy my copy of Hidden City on contact. That's, of course, less important if they have a copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus, but there are conceivably ways that I could out Colossus but not Titan. I'll go ahead and look at Titan for a second. My opponent is going to banish this copy of Matrix. I don't understand why he banished the Matrix and not the vanilla Thunder Dragon, until I realized that that probably means he's got the third copy of Matrix in hand already, which in fact he does. Afterwards, he's going to take a look at the grip. There's a Paleozoic Dynamiscus in there as well. He'll drum his fingers on the table to build suspense. Building. 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 And then finally, he'll send this copy of Some Summer Summoner to the graveyard in order to bring out a copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus. This is a formidable board until you realize that my hand contains the singular card that outs a board this problematic. He'll mull over his options a little bit. You have to be a little bit concerned if you don't see your opponent activate any hand traps in a deck that's playing like 20 of them. They're likely trying to get you to overextend. In this exact scenario, I really am hoping that my opponent continues popping off because I have just the thing for him. He'll finally set a copy of Paleozoic Dynamiscus and pass it back. Before he goes to end phase, I will activate Nibiru. The fact that my opponent doesn't immediately collapse onto the floor dejected lets me know that I might have more than my work cut out for me. The one problem with Guru almost specifically is that while it possesses the ability to play powerful hand traps like Nibiru, it kind of lacks an out to the humongous token. Right now this token's at some ridiculous number, I think 5,800 attack and 5,600 defense. I don't exactly know how I intend to out it. We draw for turn and think about it. We're going to start with a Pot of Duality. We kind of have to find Hidden City off this, and evenly and super polymerization. So you can't see here, but I already have an evenly in hand, so the second one isn't gonna do a whole lot. I decided to take the super polymerization, even though I'm duality locked, but it's particularly easy to play around this card if, you know, you see it coming. I'll go ahead and pass it to my opponent, just so they're aware that you can't react to this card in any way, shape, or form. They'll pass it back to me, a little bit dejected, but excited to be able to play around it. This card loses a lot of its luster when you see it's coming. We'll switch our big rock to defense position, and with no Subterrors, these two set cards are going to have to do enough work. At end step, our opponent is going to activate Paleozoic Dynamiscus, targeting our big rock. I don't really understand the utility of this. I mean, it just removes a monster that he'd be able to attack over anyway, until I understand what he's aiming to do next turn. He'll draw a card, stroke his beard, and then normal summon a DENKO SEKKA. I swear to God, there must be a magnet that pulls this card to my opponent's hand every time I'm playing a back row deck. Alright. Well, a big thumbs up for my opponent, and an effective Game 2 loss for me. Without access to Super Polymerization, I don't know what I can possibly do, and as my opponent shuffles his graveyard, I realize that I'm about to be OTK'd by Thunder Dragon Duo. He's going to look for a second, and thankfully he doesn't have a bunch of really good stuff to banish, but unfortunately that should be enough. The token's at what, 5,600 attack plus the 28 from the Duo? Yeah, in fact, let's go to Game 3. For Game 3, I elect to start. Our hand is bonkers. We're going to once again lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance, Ash Bait as always. It's one of those cards where you kind of have to Ash it, but if you do and then your opponent has a Hidden City, you feel really, really bad afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and banish 6 of my extra deck cards face down. My opponent is going to send an Ash from their hand to the graveyard, and I'll follow up with a copy of Hidden City. We'll use Hidden City's effect. Unfortunately for my opponent, ashing Hidden City wouldn't have even really done much here. We go ahead and add a copy of Fiendus to hand because we already have the Guru. We're going to afterwards set that copy of Guru and then use the effect of Hidden City, targeting our said Guru in order to flip it up. We'll activate the effect of Guru to get a copy of Subterror Final Battle. And unfortunately, we don't have any of the floodgates, like there can be only one or summon limit that would otherwise keep us alive in this scenario, but still, Final Battle Pass isn't the worst thing in the world. We also have an Errant Terraforming, which means we'll be able to end on Necro Valley. Necro Valley, extremely powerful in this matchup. Remember, it turns off things like Thunder Dragon Hawk, cards that banish other cards from the graveyard. I mean, there's just so much that it disrupts. Our opponent will draw for turn, and they seem to have found another copy of Ash Blossom. Isn't that always the way it goes? This is me gesturing to my opponent. If you have DENKO SEKKA, bring it on now. I'm prepared. Oh my goodness. They're going to lead with a copy of Thunder Dragon. I have no response to that. It crosses my mind for a second that maybe I want to use Fiendus in order to negate the activation so that my opponent won't have activated the hand effect of a Thunder monster this turn. With so many that they normally rely on, like Thunder Dragon Hawk turned off until the end phase, when I finally elect to send this Necro Valley to the graveyard for something like a second Hidden City, it might be in my best interest to prevent them from activating one at all. But I decide against it and figure that probably negating the actual threat is worth more than negating a hypothetical. A big think out of our opponent. It can be hard to structure these Thunder Dragon lines, and again, even though he knows basically every card that we have on the field and the one important one in our hand, playing through Necro Valley is a hassle in and of itself. They'll add that Thunder Dragon to hand and paw over their grip for a couple more seconds. We'll hand them back their deck, now shuffled and cut, before they reveal the third DENKO SEKKA! 3 games in a row, and I just collapse. Unlike Joey Wheeler, however, I still do have the necessary energy to continue the duel, even if I show my final battle in the process. It was already known information, don't worry. I say fine. Final Battle isn't particularly strong here. They're thinking about tributing it, I believe. While DENKO SEKKA is usually quite good against Guru, it's not particularly strong here, where I not only have access to the card that protects my copy of Guru, but my Guru's inherent defense stat means that they're going to have to commit to something. They can't just sit on DENKO and wait. They're thinking about their options, and neither of them are very good. They finally elect to send it to the graveyard to special summon a copy of Colossus from the extra deck, but this isn't much better. Afterwards, we're going to take a look at their grip. There's really nothing to activate, so they'll go to Battle Step and attack into our copy of Guru. We'll reveal our set copy of Final Battle, adding the attack and defense points of Subterror Guru together, and dealing the first damage of the match. This attack isn't phenomenal, but of course it does force the activation of Subterror Final Battle before I would like, which means that I won't be able to do something like flip down my opponent's Colossus at end step and then quickly activate the effect of Guru next turn. They're going to drum their hands on the field, once again recognizing the futility of their position. At this point, they're just trying to figure out how exactly they're going to out this Subterror Guru. Unable to think of a way to prevent the activation of its effect and the flip down of Colossus next turn, they'll clench their fist and pass it back to us. For turn we draw, we don't have a copy of Pot of Extravagance to activate, so we'll go ahead and activate the effect of Guru, targeting our opponent's Colossus. Both of those suckers will get flipped down, then we'll flip summon our copy of Guru, use Guru's effect, it'll eat an Ash, and I figure now's as good a time as any to activate my set copy of Subterror Final Battle, declaring no effect negation until the end of the turn. That's going to fetch an Archer from my deck. This Archer is going to make quick work of this set copy of Colossus. It's going to be able to shuffle that sucker back into the deck because, of course, its effect is active because we have a second Subterror monster on our side of the field and have yet to conduct our normal summon. We'll go ahead and do that now, normal summoning an Archer, and then moving to battle phase, shuffling back our opponent's Colossus, and then attacking directly with our copy of Guru. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and set one additional card before passing back to our opponent. For turn, our opponent's going to draw. It's a copy of Allure of Darkness, and, well, I think he's just got to go for it here. He's going to activate Allure of Darkness and find off the top. Oh, no Dark Monsters. And that's going to be the end of the game. Another W in the books for Subterror Guru, and I hope to see you all next time.